How good are you really?
Everybody looks up much of there and said, I could have done that better.
You've got an 18-year-old that's able to play conference style football with older men and he's bossing it.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't he be playing professional football?
As a coach, as a manager, I don't owe you an explanation for dropping you.
Is it that hard to make it pro?
How good are you really? Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Studs.Moulds.Blades podcast. We just want to thank everyone who's followed, subscribed, shared, commented, anything just like that. Obviously, we've had a lot of good feedback, negative and positive, so we embrace them all. We'd like to thank Humphrey again, as always. Kind of he's the host, for letting him bring it into the barbershop. The topic we're going with today is we've all kind of played at a younger age. We've played with players, maybe in school, maybe Sunday league, but we thought had ability and a lot of talent, and they were kind of pushed kind of within their peers as kind of like the one we felt maybe was going to make it to kind of a professional level. And when we're talking about professional, we're talking about League 2 and above, but for whatever reason they may not have crossed that line. So we're just going to cover obviously different factors why a lot of players with a lot of potential and talent didn't cross the line. And today we're going to start with Rob.
When we look at football, it's a journey. Do you understand me? There's many pitfalls than just turning up to training. It's the pressure, it's the aptitude, it's the attitude, and plus you got the injuries now, not to talk of the mental health side. So a lot of the players we grew up around, they were good within our circle, but we didn't know what was happening on Essex or Manchester and stuff like that. So the pressure, can you commit to going to training 5 days a week? Can you commit to going to bed at 8 o'clock when there's a party on Saturday night? One of the problems in our circle was our attitude. We were told we were so good that we didn't have to do anything else. For me, if I'm looking at it, is it that hard to make it pro? The question is yes and no, really. Because everybody looks up much of there and said, I could have done that better. You take them over the park, you think you're rubbish, bruv. You haven't got it in me. And then everybody reverts to, back in the day, I could have done this. Everybody was good back in the day when we was 11, before the drinking and smoking and partying. Everybody was great. But the reality is, it's a whole different ball game when you get to that professional. Are you disciplined enough to maintain it?
I think there's three factors really in this of these players that got the ability and talented that don't make it. One is the club. Two is they bottle it because they ask for the limelight, and sometimes they get given it, and then they can't handle the pressure. The pressure of performing every week, turning up to training, saying no to your friends, saying no to your girlfriend, and being consistent, and being focused on what you want to do. So that's I think that's two things that holds. There's clubs there that they just see you coming in and out every week. They don't specify on what you need to improve on every week in, week out. And this depends on what level you're playing at. If you're playing at level, like if you're like a youth player at lower level, you just turn up on time, you train, you go home. There's no analysis on your training, your ability, and what you can improve on.
How do you know that?
Yeah?
How do you know that?
How do I know that?
How do you know from just based on what you said?
Because
that a lot of the clubs that they don't
lower
analyze
clubs.
your training
Lower clubs.
on what you should be
Because
doing
I
and
know,
what you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, because I've played at lower clubs where I used to you just turn up, as long as you're on time, as long as you run around the most, as long as you show you're the most energetic, you're the strongest, that's about it, you're a good player. That's how they define it, lower clubs, because it's all about power, strength. And I knew players that used to play at Tottenham and stuff, they had like assessment sheet where they get reviewed like every 3 months or every whatnot, and what they need to improve on. So it all depends on, that's what I'm saying, the clubs, you need to analyse where these players need to improve on, because you might be so powerful and running past everyone, but then eventually everyone's physical strength is going to catch up to you as well when you get to a certain age. Then you can't bully them anymore. Then you got to show your technical ability, and then if you haven't developed your technical ability throughout your youth club ages, then it's going to show it's going to show on you.
A lot of people that I sought after when they were younger, were the most talented people. I think they had the fast track into into like I say more established teams from a young age. So I mean, we could talk about those people, but I like to talk about those people that some people like us grew up in the ends. We played cage football. We played Wembley all day outside our yards. But, you know, one of our two friends could see that we had ability or someone had ability. And we had to go to, we didn't end up going to the Man Uniteds and the Arsenal straight away. We had to start from, let's say, our Saturday league teams and somewhere in Hainault or wherever you were playing. And you could tell they had ability. But I just think that the reason why a lot of those people never came through is because the equilibrium in terms of those that are trying to get up there from like nowhere, from all the way down, and those that are up there coming down, is a lot more people from up there that are not making it coming down. So in a way, if they're coming down, they're fast-tracked into the team that we were playing in because they played in a, let's say, somewhere higher. Yeah, exactly.
Is that coming from finishing in the third in the Champions League and going to UEFA Cup? You have better players, so obviously one of you is going to win it. Yeah, it's similar like that because you've been trained at that level. If you come down...
I hear your point, what you've made. I'm going to let you carry on. I hear the point you've made, but don't you also think, in the strangest kind of way, they are, when you're saying they get fast-tracked because they're coming from up to down, you can look at it on the other side and say they deserve that because they're coming from up the top. You don't go from up the top and fall straight away down to the floor. So you have to fall somewhere.
No, you know what, I can only talk about my experiences. Like, let's say a few years ago when I used to be at the non-league scene, I used to play for a club called Haybridge. And obviously back in the Ryman Prem at the time, you had teams like AFC Wimbledon. And they've got a huge fan base. And every player that's playing in that league wants to start in them type of games. You get me? So for me personally, I remember I was at Haybridge. I was doing quite well at Haybridge, but the team we weren't winning games. So we had AFC coming up in like 2 weeks, and anyone that knows me, I used to be about I'm working on my stuff in terms of what I can control. Because in football, it's all about variables. So certain variables that you can control in terms of how fit you are, your touches. You work on your technique, but there's certain things that you can't control in terms of those players that managers go and get from like higher leagues that come down. So there's a particular afternoon that we had AFC Wimbledon. I was buzzing. I'm thinking, you know what? I've been doing well for the team. Now I want to show these fans what I can do. You know what I'm saying? But when I got to the changing rooms and the gaffer called out the names, I went and started and I saw two new faces. And I was fuming, thinking, oh shit, like this was my chance to at least put myself in that shopping window. But I never got that chance. And that geezer that played in front of me, George Purcell, I can't forget his name. He was a decent player, but I didn't think he was better than me. But the fact that he came straight from, I swear that they must have got him like 2 days before the game. And he came straight down into the team. He played, we lost 1-0. I remember I came on in the 65th minute and I was so angry, yeah, like I just couldn't play my game. Yeah. And I remember at the end of the game, I was in the changing rooms, the gaffer was talking, I was banging my boots on the floor because I was pissed off. And he goes, yo, Tanks, that's what he used to call me, Tanks. He goes, stop doing that because I'm talking. So I looked at him and he said, stop doing that. And also wipe that look off your face before I slap it off your face.
That's a Bex Fergie moment.
Do you see what I mean about attitude? Yeah. You see how Danny...
people say it's attitude, but at the time I was pissed. Like,
But then then the manager says it's for the benefit of the team. I brought two more experienced players who have played at higher level to help us win the game. But you're thinking about yourself. This is my opportunity to go in the shop window.
Robert, you're right. But this is when I didn't understand that managers were actually working to try and get better jobs as well.
Yeah, but hold on.
But I did not.
Can I ask you a question? Did he have a word with you that you were not going to start?
No word.
Exactly. Like
no word. No word.
You've got a young player in your team. He thinks he's doing well.
And I was doing well.
Yeah, the least you can do is say, "Oh, I've got these guys. I just want to see what they're about." Just rub you like me.
Can I say something, Nana?
Hold on. Let me finish. Like, oh, I just want to see what they are. If they're rubbish, I'll take them off. Just make you feel like okay.
I personally think the reason why the ability is just I think ability is just the
20%.
It's not much. It's not much because you get to a certain level, everyone can play football. You
Yeah.
get me? But mentality and application is
Yeah, but
right.
no, what I'm saying is that in terms of management, he could have managed that situation a bit better. That you will understand why you're on the bench. Like I'm saying, like he could have he could have lied to you and made you feel a bit bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Like they're coming down for a trial. I want to see what they're about. If they're crap, I know you can. Hold on. If you're not good enough, I know you can come and do it for me.
Danny,
Yeah. So just to make you feel better about yourself.
Danny, at what you said, there's nothing he could have said to quell your anger.
He could.
Nothing he could have said. Even if he spoke to you and say, look,
Before the
I
game.
need these
What,
two
before the
players.
game?
Yeah, no, he would have been making better.
That-
Why are we making
So Moses,
why
quick.
are we making it about Danny, right?
No,
No,
just-
it's
it's an example.
Listen,
It's an example what people go through.
Let Moses go.
I know it's an
Go on,
example.
go on, Mo,
I get where Danny's coming
go
from.
on, go on.
I get where Danny's coming from. It's frustrating, yeah. But at the end of the day, these subjects reminds me a little bit of what we touched on on the last podcast, right? At the end of the day, what level was that? Was that a scholar level or even reserved or first team?
No, it was first team.
If it's first team, as a coach, as a manager, I don't owe you an explanation for dropping you. Okay, yeah. At the end of the day, okay, yeah. You're old enough. You should be able to take it. Okay. If you're not good enough, sometimes we just got to look at it is we are not good enough. You might not be good enough, or you might be a good player. You might not be good enough for that specific moment, for that manager. Okay, yeah. Yeah. You're just not good enough.
Based on what you said and based on what Nana said, one thing we must understand is this. Remember, you have to look at it from the manager's point of view. You as a player, all of us as players, our career can still go on. A manager's job is not, I've still got 38 games of the league. I've only got this game or the next game to prove myself and keep my job. So his job, I get where you're coming from, where you're frustrated, where nobody spoke to you. But he's looking at it. Remember, that's how he gets to pay his mortgage and look after his kids. So his interest is not you. His interest is we got to win the game for the club, so I get to stay in a job.
To be fair, it wasn't just me that was dropped.
No, let me finish here. I get that, Dan, because guess what? You would have lost that game. Monday morning, he could have got the sacked. But guess what?
We still lost the game. We still lost the game.
But that's what I'm trying to say. He could have got sacked, but you would have still been at the club with a new manager to still prove yourself. So I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, you have to understand that managers
the
look
reason
out
why
for
I'm not
themselves.
making this about me, the reason why I'm saying that is because we can always talk about players that went to the Arsenals and the Man Uniteds, but there's a lot of players out there that are good players in non-league, bro.
100%.
Yeah,
Like
that's
a
what I'm
lot of
100%.
good players in non-league.
100%.
So
But can we go to team?
You know what's interesting as well? Yeah, I think we've got to think about perspective too. Coming back to the question, why are some players not making it? We've touched upon, obviously, you're seeing people in your circle, in ends and whatnot. That's only one perspective. Obviously, you can see people that you play with maybe on a Sunday or people that you go to school with. Then you've got district, you've also got county, and then you've got obviously your sense of excellences and your academies. So, touching upon what Moses said, to be fair, ability does come down to it, because a player that might look very good in a school aspect or in a district game, when it now gets to the professional standpoint and they're with, let's say, for example, Southend United, they might not necessarily be the best player at Southend United. They might be in the lower tier of the players that are there. So again, that's why I'm saying perspective, because from what we're seeing in ends or whatnot, wow, he's a real player. But when he's actually getting off to his professional club, he's not as good as some people are thinking. And unfortunately, that is the reality. And then like you've said as well, just to finish off as well, when you think about it, we're not necessarily speaking about the Premier League clubs right now, because we've said making it is League 2.
Yeah.
When you go lower down the pyramid, League 2 clubs, they can't offer, for example, a full 18 scholarships to everyone that's currently there, because they're going to be looking at, okay, there's a couple clubs in League 1, in the Championship, in the Premier League, players that get released there, we're going to want to get a few. So just because they've had 18 players, maybe from under 14 to under 16, is very unlikely that even half of them are going to remain there to get scholarships.
I disagree to a little bit.
Okay.
Based on what you said yourself, if the ability is there, if the talent is there, I don't think these clubs at lower leagues are going to disregard that talented players who are there. I'll give you an example, a Jamie Vardy. if a Jamie Vardy was, you know, he was where he was.
It was at Sheffield Wednesday, I believe.
You know, they're not gonna let him go because let's say what was his name for Man United at the time? The striker, then he went on to Wolves.
Sylvan Ebanks.
Yeah, Sylvan. They wouldn't have let it Jamie Vardy go because Sylvan was coming, because Jamie Vardy would have been showing his ability and his talent that he was good enough.
But like you said, he would have been one of the talented players. So maybe I was a little bit vague. The talented players probably would have had like.
Let me say something.
But the players that weren't as good and that were always looking over their shoulder, the club would be thinking he might not necessarily be good enough. He's a question. He's a question mark. Wait. He's a question mark. However, we know that, for example, down the road, this club in the Championship have released a player in his position who's better. They're probably going to go with that player because of his pedigree.
Can I just elaborate on my point of view of it? Yeah, because obviously I did butt in before. But personally, my opinion is this. Okay, sometimes it's not a matter about you're not good enough. Okay, you're only as good as who someone thinks of you. Okay, right? He might be a good player. Okay, but if he fits in my team and you don't, yeah, I'll pick you. Okay, so regardless, based on my philosophy, based on what I see, okay, sometimes it's got
Manager's perspective.
Yeah, it's down to luck sometimes. Sometimes it's down to your own doing.
Right
okay,
place, right time,
it's
right place.
a perfect example. What's his name? Özil. We can all sit here and say that geezer is a top footballer. When you get into Arsenal's side,
I think it's politics, personally.
it might be politics. But the manager.
He doesn't balance the team.
But listen, the manager before that.
He doesn't balance the team.
That's right, but this is what I'm trying to say. We're already giving out the reasons why he's not in Arsenal side, yeah. But we can also agree he's a good footballer, yeah.
That is not everything.
No, but what I'm saying to you
Dele
is,
Alli is out of Tottenham at the
but what
moment.
I'm saying to you, you got to listen, okay. What I'm saying to you is, right, we can look at a player and he can be a very good player, right. Sometimes he doesn't make it because he's not good enough for that for that specific club or that specific manager.
I can only talk about. I'm actually going with players that played in non-league football that were trying to make their way up the up the leagues, yeah.
Concept.
And when I used to play, they used to tell me that to actually get a chance to actually make your way up there, you had to get numbers on the board. You had to score goals, yeah.
You used to hold up the ball
and many people at non-league that could play football might not be getting those numbers, but they can just play football. They're very good players technically, and they say stuff like, you know what, maybe the country's not for you. Maybe you need to go to Spain or somewhere.
Because another thing as
now
well.
let's talk about the players that actually did make it from non-league all the way up there. Most of them were either strikers or defenders. If you were a playmaker, you could play football. It was very tough for you.
Yeah, but think of the football you're getting through as well.
No, he's talking about coming up from non-league.
You know what?
One voice.
In fact, it's true. You know what I would add to that as well? I agree with you, Danny. I think also those players that had the luck of the draw that were playing non-league at a very young age and they were consistently getting the 90 minutes and showing that they could play senior football, we've seen even recently a lot of them go back up the pyramid because it's like, for example, you've got an 18-year-old that's able to play Conference South football with older men and he's bossing it. Why shouldn't he be playing professional football, especially at that age? They don't
what position though? What position?
It varies because there. Hold on.
At non-league, when you're young, when you're 16, they don't care how good you are. Can you come on and make us win? That's what they care about. They're not.
But that's why I specifically said.
That's what Danny's saying.
If you're a young player and you're able to boss it at a semi-professional
but when
league.
you say boss it depends on positions. Bossing it in the league is scoring goals.
Not necessarily though.
Yes, it is.
It is scoring goals. But if you're an 18-year-old, now think about it.
Do you remember that Rio used to
I don't
play
think
with?
we're putting this into perspective now. If a player has been released from a professional club and they're, let's say, for example, 18, so they had a scholarship and they didn't get a professional contract, it's not different.
We're talking about people building themselves up.
Remember, my situation was I was
building yourself up to the top.
Well, I used to play for a team over at Hainault, like a school team. Yeah, I was like 15, 16. I got scattered, went to West Ham. I got injured playing against, I think it was Wimbledon. Yeah, I broke my wrist and I left because I had to take my GCSEs and stuff like that. I was like, you know what, forget football. And I thought that if you don't make it for West Ham or these big teams, there's nothing else there. But I was told later on there's something called non-league that you could play. So I came back into that system. There's a lot of good players at that level. But usually, if you're not a striker getting goals, or if you're not a centre-back that they can see that you've got certain attributes to head the ball, it was very hard to break.
I'm not disagreeing with
to
you.
break
And
in.
that's why I specifically
And there's so many people out there that can relate to this.
If you got players at those specific ages that did break in, that's where I was progressing my point, saying how they're working back up the pyramid. Because at the end of the day, if you've been released, but you can play at a young age in non-league and you're playing every week, getting 90 minutes, clubs are going to be looking because your name's going to be ringing, especially if you're at a very good age. Because it's not even like clubs higher up now have to think, rah, we've got to put him straight into the first team. If you're still below the age of under 23, he's a very good player. We can put him into the 23s. So there's different ways to navigate. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just showing in terms of a progressive point.
So,
At that moment, you only know your area. You don't know what's going on around you. Do you understand me? So if me and you are good, my competition is you. But then when I get to Southend and I realise, oh, there's somebody else. Do you understand me? Then as you go to the Premier League, now you got the internationals coming. Now you got the under-16s at Spain and Germany coming. So
And
now
you
it's
made
not.
that point.
I'm going to give it back to you, but it's no longer about me, you, and Danny from East London or North London. It's now about Jurgen from Germany and Cesc Fabregas from Spain.
Now, let me go back a little bit. I remember back in the days when, our Arsenal, when we was there, we had an academy director, Terry Murphy. Now, Terry Murphy's idea of football, because he used to work with a lot of young black players around the south, the southeast London areas. Now, his whole idea about black players, all he cared about was you got to be big, you got to be strong. And then he bring you into the clubs. Now, the day when Terry Murphy left Arsenal and Steve Rowley took over as the academy director, everything started changing. All the big lads started leaving one by one because everything started changing to it's all about technical abilities now. Terry Murphy then went into Wimbledon. He took over as Wimbledon academy director. Massive difference. To get into Wimbledon in my time, you had to be 6 foot something, big and strong. That was the only way you got into Wimbledon. If you were small and technical, you couldn't get into Wimbledon. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And then, like what you said about, as you go further, you start to realize about there's other internationals. And I can give a proper example on myself. Got through from, I went to Arsenal since the age of 9, progressed all the way through. We get to like the academy system now. You're playing, so obviously, as you all go in, you go in as a striker, you start going back right mid, centre mid, and then you find a position. They said, no, you are actually a right back. And that was my position. And then what happens, they buy Moritz Volz. Everybody knows Moritz Volz. Now, this 16-year-old is coming, German international, he's coming as a right back. He has to play. But at the same time, I'm playing. To me, it was like, oh my God, I've got to step up. Now, my performances are still keeping up. Now, an order comes from the top because that was actually Wenger's doing. Wenger's people's buying. I need him to be playing in order to see him, to progress him through. But we can't take Cedric out the team. He's our best right back throughout. He needs to play. So what happens then, I get moved over into a left back position. And a player who was a left back, he can't play. Because I'm still keeping up with my performances. I can't get dropped out of the team. But at the same time, a German international needs to be playing. So back to what Danny was saying, I get the frustration. And I think that's something what a lot of us at a young age, well, sometimes when a competition comes, our attitude is, the natural thing to do is to get angry. Whereby if you control that, you say, well, you know what? I'm going to carry on. Look,
mentality.
When Moritz came in, it's not like that. No, couple of games, you're out the team because Moritz has to play. But from Monday to Friday, my performances in training is exactly the same. Practice games, I'm still keeping it up there. Yeah. You know, when they used to come and say, oh, we need a few players to step in and go and play a practice match for the injured first team players coming in. I'm going and I'm playing. And when I'm playing, I'm doing my stuff. So they're looking at it, we can't drop him. He has to play, so we have to find a place for him in the team to keep on playing.
I want to say one thing there. You know what? You're right about let's say, my attitude or my mentality at the time. And I have said that mentality in football is up there.
Especially coming from
Like,
where we come
yeah,
from.
like it's up there. You need that. Like let's take someone like Mikel Antonio. The way Mikel Antonio plays football, I could go to a lot of non-league clubs, yeah, and I'll find you enough of Mikel Antonio there. And those kind of players, yeah, we can look at him and think, you know what, he doesn't look that good, but you don't want that type of player competing with you at any setup because they're gonna give 110%. And one thing about non-league, yeah, if let's say if someone from up there has come down and is taking your position, you can say, you know what, why don't you just get your head down and start working? But listen, you train twice a week and play on Saturdays. So if you train knowing that you've lost your position that weekend, you're not coming back in for some time. And how many Saturdays are you gonna get on the coach, wake up in the morning, get on the coach, go to football, know that you're only gonna get 10 or 15 minutes, and you're gonna eat fish and chips after? You're gonna be pissed off. You know what I'm saying? You start to think, I should fucking get a job here. And that can easily break you. It broke so many people that I know, bro.
Rejection.
Like so many people that I know.
But you're right, and then that's why when we're talking about lower end of football, remember, you know, every stages of football has its politics.
Exactly. Yeah,
Believe me, you knew. See, based on what you said, I can give you an example today. 2 players I played with. Yeah, one of my friends from school days all the way up, Rowan Ricketts, Stephen Sidwell. When you look at the ability coming all the way, because we all came through from the age from under 8. You look at the ability, Stephen Sidwell, in terms of talent and ability, nowhere near Rowan Ricketts. But you see what Stephen Sidwell had that Rowan Ricketts didn't have. He was willing to make the sacrifices, and that is key. That is really key. The sacrifices Stephen Sidwell made from a young age allowed him to go on to have a longer and a better career than somebody like a Rowan Ricketts.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. So
But I want to say this though. First of all, we have to respect anyone that came from that non-league level and went up there. Those people there, like, I tip my hat to them because it's a different.
I agree with that, but then it's respecting any of those youth players who've been at teams like Arsenal that got cut, then made it work back up. The one that comes to mind is the white girl. I remember playing against him for Charlton and Stansted. Now you look at him, my man scored yesterday. Do you understand me? To go from where you was to Saturday 3 p.m. at Clapton, Spotted Dog, and to have that mentality which you're talking about, Danny. You know, the first thing I said is attitude. Because what the manager would have said to Danny is, you only need one chance, but you have to be prepared to take that chance. Because that person who came in, if he done the ACL for the rest of the thing, Danny, you're up. But if you come on with out of shape, chip on your shoulder, oh, now they need me. It's like, well, he don't really want it. He only wants it for him. He don't want it for the team. And that's what affects us a lot of the time.
In terms of what we've covered mentality, we've covered attitude, possible managers in terms of being under pressure. But then family network, does that come into it?
Of course he does.
When we're talking about being rejected, having the same support network as some other players.
There's a lot of aspects on it, yeah? Also, luck can do with it,
There's
yeah?
a big part. Luck.
You can have luck and then you go
right
through.
Place, right time.
But at the end of the day, okay, you just got to look at it. I'm not good enough now, okay, but I'll go back, okay, and trying to find another door. There's a perfect example, yeah. There's a kid called Godfrey, right? Yeah, right. Godfrey Poku, yeah, right. We used to play together, okay. He plays semi-pro somewhere now. Yeah, he's doing quite well for himself, right. We was the younger generation. He was quite older than us, right. We was all training at Redbridge and stuff like that. But he was so consistent, regardless of how many times he got knocked down. Yeah. When I got knocked down, I went to myself, sod it. I'm gonna go and try and find a way of making money. Okay. Yeah. I don't just have to make money on playing football. Yeah. I want to make money. I want to be able to feed my family and feed whatever. Yeah. So I'm gonna go and find a trade. Yeah. So sod it. I gave up. Yeah. But that bloke, he was working every time. Like he was working his socks off. Okay. He didn't make it in the Premiership level. But he still plays football now and earns off of it.
Those people.
How many times did he get knocked? They got knocked so many times.
The thing I did say was you have to actually respect those people.
100%.
Because
you know
Wesley, of course.
Our friend Wesley, he got released from QPR at the age
QPR.
of 17. And then he went to get a job in the office as an admin.
So let's
and then after like 6 months,
listen to him.
after 6 months,
Factors are not excuses.
after 6 months, he was like, this is not what I want to do. Like, he quit, no money, and then he went to, I think he went to Waltham Forest.
That's the sacrifice, right?
And
Yeah.
what Danny's saying, I think there was a few players that were there that were probably better than him. We had Junior, Danny himself, ability-wise, but because he was a striker, these numbers, Wesley wouldn't do nothing in the game.
So position
Bang,
helps.
just score goals.
Position
Position do help. So he went through that. He went through Waltham Forest. He was with Bradley Thomas. So I went to Leeds. Bradley Thomas, the midfield guy. Yeah, only two of them came up from Waltham Forest. They went to Farwick. He's played in all the leagues up to, I think, Championship.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, you have to sacrifice.
And
he didn't have his...
sacrifice.
Yeah, but he's...
what I'm trying to say is that at that level that Wesley came from
He's mad.
is
He's played all the leagues.
You had to.
I guess
Mo,
it just
listen.
depends
Mo,
on who
listen.
you are in it as
Mo,
an
listen.
individual, as a person in it, yeah? At the end of the
Thank
day,
you.
me, if I want
Mental
something,
strength is
if I
important.
want something,
But we've covered
regardless
that.
of what you're going to
We've
say
covered
to me,
mentality.
Yeah.
I
But
ain't
he
gonna
just-
back
he
down.
just backing
If
it
that's
up.
what I really want,
He's
I'm going to
just
go
running
for
it
it.
off.
And you know what's interesting about that? What I would say is that there's certain factors that everyone's got to hit. But the reality is, what works for, you said, Wesley, isn't necessarily going to work for someone else.
Yeah.
Someone else could say, you know what, I'm going to stop working, and they're not necessarily going to go get pro. The circumstances is different for absolutely everyone. Whether that's the bit of
But
luck
with
that
him,
you
he
get,
said all he wanted
whether
to do
that's
is play
your family
football.
network. Of course, are you willing to make the sacrifice? Definitely. But the reality
sometimes,
is,
yeah,
but the reality
you can-
is,
Go on.
no, sacrifice
You
is
can
a
make the
big thing.
sacrifice.
One voice.
But
You
remember,
still don't get there.
last thing
Yeah.
I'm saying, and that's what I'm saying, Danny. You can make the sacrifice, but it's not everyone.
It's
that's
not
gonna-
guaranteed.
Yeah, of course.
It's not everyone that can get to the Prem. It's not everyone that's going to become a professional footballer, and that's the actual harsh reality of life.
Can I ask you a question?
And like Mo said, it's
You
not
see-
just
you see-
football.
You see Danny,
It's
for
not just
example, here
football.
now. There's questions he's going to have in himself that says, imagine if I had done stuff differently. And I
Yeah,
could
but
make
it
that
doesn't. It's not
sacrifice.
guaranteed though.
And it's not guaranteed, but he can live with the fact that I thought
At least
everything
he tried.
tried,
Yes,
and it
yes,
didn't
yes,
work.
yes.
At least he tried.
Conversely, he can say, did I have the time to throw anything at it? So it's that balance to argue. It's a roll of the dice. Do you understand me? Nothing's guaranteed.
Definitely.
But to summarize it, we don't know the actual business aspects of football.
Yeah.
What happened to Danny? That could have been the chairman saying, we're getting these two guys. I promised it first time.
We're not saying they're excuses. We're saying they're factors, because there's a few things. I think, well, Rob really touched on it before, in terms of playing inside your peer groups and understanding how good are you really. That's the question. How good are you really? It's often like I use like a FIFA analogy. When you're the best in your peer group at FIFA, you're beating everyone 3 zips and off all the time. Then you go to another group, another tournament. All of a sudden, everyone's using R2 to finish. And you are the weakest in the group. So sometimes it's about kind of realizing, actually, maybe I'm not, levels of where we're going at. And also I want to touch on it. Again, it's like when we're talking about factors, it's in how many really of all the players we talked about actually come back and say, you know what, I was given extra opportunity, Y opportunity, I was training, I was given this trial and that trial, but how many people actually come back and say, you know what, maybe I just wasn't good enough?
You know what? I don't believe in. I just wasn't good enough. You know, I don't believe in that. Because
how many players
yeah. But I don't think.
Not yourself.
Yeah, I don't think. No, I don't think you should ever say to yourself, "I'm not good enough." I don't think you should, because I
sometimes
think
you're not good enough.
No. The reason why I'm saying this is because it's about application, bro. I just don't believe in any kid out there should be thinking they're not good enough.
No, that's not what I said. I'm saying, but once they've been given an opportunity, once they get to a certain point, the realization, when they get to certain ages, maybe I'm not at that level, but you know what? I'm going to work on this, work on that. The self-actualization, I don't think it happens enough.
As a player, you need to go to your manager and said, Jeffrey's in front of me. What do I need to do to be in chat with Jeffrey? Do I need to increase my composure? Am I not as fit as Jeffrey? Do I panic? Is my ball control not good enough? When you are scouted by a professional club, you are scouted on your potential. You are not guaranteed to go from the top. You're scouted on your potential. Now you're there. Can we improve you? Can you go to the next level? So when you're talking about playing with your peers, you're up here. You go to your first pro club, you're now down here.
Do we agree, okay, there's varieties of reasons why players don't make it, okay, yeah? So, no, just listen, I'm trying to get to a point. I'm trying to get to a point, that's what I'm saying in this, right? So we're saying, okay, it depends on a lot of stuff, right? And also, you are good, but you're not suited to that football, okay, yeah? Everyone agrees with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Can we...
Yeah, keep going. No, keep going.
Can we that's something everyone agreed on, yeah?
Yes.
Right? It's all down to application, yeah? Does everyone agree
Yeah,
that?
yeah. One of the aspects.
One of the aspects.
One of the most important ones. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Ability is only like 20%.
That's right. So the most important one is your application, okay? Because you can improve as a player, especially at that age, okay? If someone shuts the door on you, you can go and graft and come back, okay? Yeah. So why are we still going around in circles, okay? We all agree on the fact that, personality, okay, character, okay, and application to be able to say, I am not gonna get knocked down, okay. I might get knocked down tomorrow, okay, but I'll go and graft and go to the next manager and do that. We should just move on from that.
No, I know you've spoken about what Mo. I'm very passionate about this because I know so many people that I've grown up with, that you can say, oh, you got knocked down, why don't you graft and come back? Okay, cool. Mo, I agree with you on coming back, grafting, and trying to make your way up again. But what I'm trying to say, from my personal experiences, the level that we used to play at, there weren't no cameras, okay? So no one's actually gonna look at your ability and go, you know what, and highlight it. Because you do certain things, you've done it, they forget about it, or they might remember it, but there's no cameras out there. So if you're not scoring goals, it's very hard. It's very hard to make any sort of impact in your position. So if you look at this country, midfielders, playmakers don't really make it up there. They don't. Especially before.
You mean from a lower league?
I'm talking about lower. I'm talking about lower league here because there's so many people out there. So many people. There's so many people.
100%.
Listen, I'll give you an example, right? I used to play for East Thurrock. There was a manager called Kovo. You know, old white guy. You know, he's been in the game for years. Yeah. I remember there was a corner being taken against us, and the corner came out. I was at the edge of the box. I brought the ball down. I controlled it down. He pulled me to the side and said to me, Dan, if you do that again, you're coming the fuck off. Next time, get rid of the fucking ball. Now, let me tell you something, If you play at a certain level where there's cameras, they're going to highlight that and say, you know what? You've done something well there.
Can I just respond to that?
The only thing I want to say is never ever think there's not ability in the lower leagues, bro.
This
There's a bunch of them, but they don't get the shine.
But no one has said that. No one has said
No,
that.
he
There's
said-
no ability in the lower league. Danny, based on what you said, Mo, please. Nowadays, there's cameras all over the place, even our lower leagues, where people are seeing things. So we have to understand football has kind of gone forward as well. Do you get what I'm trying to say, Dan? What you're saying is right. There are ability in the lower leagues. The politics of the lower leagues and the politics of the other end of football are completely different.
Danny. I just don't want people to get off topic here. When I say you're not good enough, okay, if you listen to me carefully, I said it doesn't mean you haven't got the ability, you're not good enough. You're not good enough for that specific opinion, okay? That opinion, that manager, okay? Because he said they just wanted to score goals, okay? You know what you got to do. Because you just say to me, they just wanted to score goals. They don't want you. They don't want you to touch the ball and do that. They just wanted to score goals. You're being told what you need to do. Okay. But this is what I'm saying. I understand. Maybe Danny wasn't suited for that type of football. And someone maybe might have to tell him, Danny, let's move on to another club.
What I'm trying to say is that how comes in this country, I don't know about now. Maybe now we have that. But I don't think. Okay, let's talk about Jamie Vardy, Mikel Antonio, Chris Smalling, Tarkowski. None of these guys are midfielders. But if we look at Kante, he played in the lower leagues in France.
Second division.
Or second division, whoever it is. Mahrez played in those lower divisions. If Mahrez grew up in this country, would he have made it up there?
Probably not.
When you look at it overall, I honestly believe football here in this country, I just don't really think they put so much emphasis on that whole midfield, creative. And I'm going to give you an example on that. When you just look at the whole problem they had with Paul Scholes, where we all believe, or most football fans believe, had England built its team around Paul Scholes, that golden generation, they could have possibly done better. But England, remember, this country, we're all about the strongest defenders, the best defenders, and the forwards, like you said. No one really goes into that
So
whole...
touching on that said, are we saying basically a lot of players probably didn't make or cross the line? Could it be if they went across the waters, continental, maybe they would have had a better
100%.
chance?
100%.
That's why I said
I
luck.
believe that.
Luck comes to it as well.
believe
Would
that.
you be
Because
willing
at the
to
end of the
travel?
day, if
though?
he
Would
was
you
at
be willing to-
Arsenal, if he was at Arsenal
hold on,
under
that's a
Wenger,
key point.
Would you be willing to go across?
That's a key
Would
point.
you be willing to
mate.
go to a different
Would
country?
you willing to put the sacrifices to say, I'm going to leave
That's right.
everything here and I'm going to go
I just
abroad?
covered that.
So T, then Rob, then
I'm
me.
just going to make two little points here because I think some of us are just going around in circles
that's
just
what
a
I
little
mean.
bit. I think, like we've mentioned, you asked a very good question. Would you, as a player, if you've been rejected maybe by a club in England, be willing to go across the border? And I think ultimately as well,
that's
I think
culture.
ultimately it comes down to a lot of self-reflection. And it comes back to the questions we've been asking. Was you good enough? What was you doing well? And what are your areas of improvement? Because I think that's one point that we probably haven't touched upon enough, is that self-responsibility aspect. I think not just in football, in life, is a very easy thing as a human to think, I was unfortunate, I didn't get the luck of the draw and this, that. But at the end of the day, what are you doing well and what are your areas of improvement? And ultimately, has that now put you in the position, if it's football, to secure that contract? And then also, additionally, in terms of positions that we're talking about too, I think versatility is a very important aspect. It's all good being a very good player, whether it's being technical or being able to do this well. But if you can only play in one position, you're limiting yourself in life.
The 3 points I wanted to make. One is, when Danny said numbers, you have to go to your manager, ask what is it you want? Because at the end of the day, it's a perception of what the manager wants. The manager wanted numbers. The second point is, as a business, going back to the lower leagues, there's two things they want from you. Whether you can help us win or whether we can sell you for money. If Danny was at East Thurrock and there was other clubs roaring in around, even to buy him for 10, 15,000, at that level, do you know how much money that is? That could take you for a whole season. Yeah. If you're not that person and you're controlling at the edge of the box, you get out of my team. There's an example I could give you at Barnet a long time ago. This player was a nightmare, but that player went on to play for the Premiership and he signed on fees. You understand me?
Who's that?
Marlon King.
Okay.
Yeah? Sign on fees. Oh, we get a bit of money after that with the transfer. He could have saved Barnet for a long time. The third point I'm going to say is, we can go through this for years. There's just so many things. But what Danny pointed out about him, that could happen to so many people. And at that age, yeah, of course, it comes down to luck. It comes down to mental. And the travelling thing, we've only seen that recently with the likes of Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, but they were already established at their clubs. At a young age, for Danny to go over to possibly Germany, with who? At 19 years old, that's still a big thing. Who's he going with? Would his parents allow it? If you didn't make it for parents of mine, if you didn't make it in here when you speak the language, what makes you think you're going to make it?
Can I just elaborate? on that point where
Some
we're talking
people in
about...
Germany and France.
Hold on. Let me just quickly to just talk about in travels. Back in the day and today, again, things have changed. Because back in the day, remember, today, football, everything is put out there for you, even for 17-year-olds. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You've got a network of people working for you to make it easy for you up there, where back in the days, that wasn't the case.
I'm only just making the point about the lower leagues and going your way up because that's what I've known, and that's what the people that I'm friends with, that's what they've known. I've seen some people get up there, and I've seen most people not get up there. Like, I'll give an example. Someone like Junior, we all know Junior here. Yeah. In terms of playing football, I don't think
I've never seen a player like that before.
I don't think many of us have seen a player like that before. Those that have seen him, but for some reason, his potential and actually his realization, he never got to that stage. And you got to ask yourself, why is that?
All right, lads. So basically, we've covered a lot of topics, covered a lot of factors why we think a lot of players didn't make it. And I think, obviously, going on Danny's point, I think the semi-pro game, for those who have played it and knows the politics of it, is that if you're not a tall centre-back or if you're not a striker banging goals, it's very hard for you to get your name out there. And that's the most important thing, because sometimes scouts won't just come to watch random people. There's got to be something about you for them to come even sit in the stand and watch you. Yeah, exactly. And that's what Danny's trying to say. If you're a centre midfielder, a technician, it's long for you, especially when they're playing head tennis. I think it's kind of been well established in terms of the percentage of how many players actually make it pro. I think it's as less as 1%. So the competition out there is fierce. But at the same time, we're not saying, to any young players, aspiring players looking at that is don't try, don't to aspire to make it. There are different factors, and are you willing to make the sacrifices to make it? We probably haven't covered all factors. So again, if we haven't, feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll continue the debate and argument another day.
To see more videos, like and subscribe.